Today we're going to be making some sweet rolls. I'm experimenting with a couple different flavors. I've got one that's with apricots and cranberries and walnuts, and another one with figs and dark chocolate. First though, we're going to make sure that our sourdough starter is fed and active. I end up using all of this, but you just want equal parts sourdough starter, water, and flour, and give it a really good stir. Scrape the edges of the jar so it's nice and clean. Cover it loosely and leave it for the morning. Get our mixer ready and our scale so we can start weighing out our ingredients for the dough. We've got 50 grams of sugar, 450 grams of bread flour, an egg, 50 grams of softened butter, and 160 grams of warm milk. Then we're going to measure out our bubbly sourdough starter. We need 100 grams. We'll add that with the milk and give it a good stir so there's no clumps. Now you can add this into your mixer. I usually do it by hand, but I don't know. I did it in the mixer to start out with. Add in your sugar and your flour and get that mixed up just a little bit. I end up actually taking this off and doing it by hand just because I prefer to do it that way. And I add my egg in a little late, but you know, it all comes together in the end. So once you get that as incorporated as you can, try to get as much of the dry bits at the bottom. You're gonna put that back on your mixer, add in your butter a little bit at a time so it all pulls together. Have a little bit of a coffee break. So we're gonna go ahead and let it rest for a little bit, for about an hour. And then we're going to go in and do one stretch and fold just to help that gluten develop a little bit better. Get it into a nice little ball and cover that up and let it rest overnight. You want it to about double in size. Sometimes it's easier to actually do it during the day so you can kind of keep an eye on it and make sure that it doesn't overproof. But, you know, whatever works best for you. Then in the morning or after it's doubled, we're going to measure out for our filling. So I halved this recipe to do the two different flavors. So each bowl gets 25 grams of softened butter and 50 grams of light brown sugar. This one for the apricots and cranberries, I did half a teaspoon of ground ginger and half a teaspoon of ground cloves. Thought that it was a really nice balance. For the figs and dark chocolate, I did half a teaspoon of cinnamon, a quarter of a teaspoon of allspice, and a quarter of a teaspoon ground cloves. Felt like the spices were a little bit off here, so I don't know. May do it a little differently next time. And then we're gonna get our fruit ready. So I got the apricots measured out. It's around 37 grams, and just chop it up so that they're about the same size as the cranberries. Around 37 grams of dried cranberries as well. About 25 grams of walnuts. Set that to the side, and then get your figs ready for the other flavor. I measured out about 57 grams of dried figs, and I cut the stems off just so there's no like hard bits in the rolls. And same with these, smaller pieces, about the same size as the chocolate chips. And then I measured out 37 grams of 73% dark chocolate. Once our dough has doubled, we're going to measure it out so that I can divide it in half evenly for the two flavors. Set one half to the side and cover it up just so it doesn't dry out while we work on the other half. Lightly flour your surface, just need a little bit. You don't want to dry the dough out too much. Roll out your dough to a sort of rectangle shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. This was really my first time making rolls like this, so I need to practice getting that shape right for sure. I added a little bit of salt to each of the fillings as well, and a fork is definitely a better option for mixing that up. Spread it out evenly all over the surface of the dough. The offset spatula definitely is easiest, I think, to get it nice and smooth all over. Add your filling in. I think it's easier actually to do each of the components separate, just so you can spread it out a little bit easier. And then roll your dough up. I think I may have rolled these a little too tight too. But this was all an experiment for me, so, you know, it is what it is. This one the full recipe makes 12, so each of the flavors will get 6 rolls each. And yeah, I definitely rolled these a little too wide because you could see how tall they are. Now we're going to move on to our second flavor, a little bit of flour, and roll out your dough. Mix that filling up and spread it all over. You can see I'm trying to get a better shape this time because this one looks totally different than the last. And roll it up. And crumple up your parchment to make it easier to lay out. And there they are. Then we're going to cover it with, I use a damp towel just till they rise for a little bit till they're puffy, and bake them in the oven for about 20 minutes at 350. While they're still warm from the oven, you can brush on a glaze. I used about 50 grams of sugar and 3 tablespoons of water and just cooked it on the stove until the sugar was mostly melted down. On the apricot and cranberry, I added some little sugar pearls, and on the ones with figs and chocolate, I did some sea salt on top. I thought the ones with the apricots and cranberries were really delicious. I don't think I'll change really anything for those. With the figs and dark chocolate, I think there was something off about it, just balance-wise. I think maybe next time I'll probably leave the chocolate out of the middle maybe and just do chocolate on the top. And I think the spices could use some tweaking too with those. But overall, I learned a lot from this experience. It was really fun to try out some kind of different flavors. I'm excited to hear what you guys think, and let me know what you guys might do differently. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And see you guys in the next video.